I would like now to pass on the floor to 𝘓𝘓𝘓𝘓𝘓𝘓𝑗𝑗, who is the president of Mouvement du Nid-France. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, and thank you so much to 𝘓𝘓𝘓𝘓𝘓 for inviting us at this conference. My name is 𝘓𝘓𝘓𝘓𝘓𝘓. I'm the president of Mouvement du Nid, which is an 80-year-old NGO in France, operating in about 28 cities. And our organization is also a member of CAP International. We provide assistance to victims of prostitution and trafficking, but we also organize training sessions for professionals, social workers. We do prevention work in schools and organize public awareness events and try to do as much advocacy as we can. So globally, these are our activities. Each year, we reach out to around 5,000 persons in prostitution, mostly women, but we also meet men and trans people. And we meet them on the street or through contacts on the internet, or they come to our drop-in centers. And whatever their situation is, we provide any kind of help they need, and that includes exiting from prostitution if this is what they wish. From all the stories we've heard from them for ages, and we've heard the survivors, that was very powerful and say the same things, a vast majority of them have experienced the same history of abuse, violence, discrimination, including homophobia and transphobia, racism, poverty, before they were coerced into prostitution. All kinds of vulnerabilities that constitute a very favorable ground for exploitation. And of course, when in prostitution, they suffer repeated violence on a daily basis from sex buyers, from pimps, and traffickers, not to mention the inherent violence that constitutes prostitution, and that is having to submit to innumerable sexual acts that are not desired, but in order to survive. So the law passed in France in 2016, aiming at increasing the fight against the prostitutional system and supporting prostituted persons, made a very big change for us grassroots organizations. I will not go in detail into the content of the law, but just mention a few important measures. First, the law totally decriminalizes people in prostitution and recognizes them as victims of violence. It creates access to programs to exit prostitution. Second, it reinforces the fight against procuring, especially on the internet. Third, it establishes a national policy for prevention, education, and training. And last, but certainly not least, it prohibits the purchase of sex acts and thus aims at reducing prostitution and trafficking. So I will briefly mainly focus here on the very concrete improvements and changes the law made for victims, and also on the exit programs which our organization is implementing. Before the 2016 law in France, prostituted persons were still criminalized for soliciting. So the first important step is, of course, that with the law, women in prostitution, as I said, are no longer criminalized. They are recognized as victims of violence, and as such, they are entitled to state protection and support. Their criminal records, if they happen to have one because they have failed to pay the fines that they got for soliciting, so their criminal record is deleted. And that's a very important step to help them restore their self-esteem And we've seen from what survivors have just told us how important that is, but also that helped restoring their confidence in public agencies. About the exit programs, in every French, what we call department or county, a departmental committee is created, and it is presided by the state representative, and it is in charge of organizing and coordinating the work in favor of victims of prostitution. It is made up of state representatives, including police, justice, but also health professionals, housing state agencies, employment agencies, and so on. Organizations like ours, who are approved by the state to do so, can present before these committees cases of women who want to exit prostitution and who commit themselves to do so. If their cases are validated, then foreign undocumented victims, and this is the vast majority of prostituted persons in France actually, will be granted a temporary residency permit that allows them to work. They will benefit from some financial assistance if they are not eligible for minimum welfare. All members of this committee are to work together to help them access social housing, meet their health needs, be it physical needs or psychological, because the trauma is very big, and there is a lot of work to do on that with them, and then work to their social and professional integration. The exit program is meant to last for 2 years, the objective being that at the end of the program, those who benefited from it can gain access to real alternatives to prostitution. So far in France, a little over 1,200 exit programs have been granted. It is far too little to our point of view, but for those who have completed the program, it proved to be a great success. Most of them were able to get okay. So most of them got training and had found a job by the end of the 2 years. Their children go to school, but mostly they testify on how it totally changed their lives. To cut all ties from the violence of prostitution, not to live in constant fear any longer, to have regained their self-esteem, to be just happy, and as they say themselves, to live a normal life again. So the big improvement for us, organizations who accompany them in the exit programs, is also that with the creation of these local bodies or committees, we can access to all agencies that can locally help at the same time. Before, we had to go and knock at all doors, and it was really, it took a lot of time, and you never knew who was going to answer or not. But now they are all sitting with us around the same table, and we can discuss the situation of the women and what they need. And very important, they have been trained to the philosophy and principles of the law and are much more aware of the realities of prostitution. I'm not saying that everything is ideal. The law is only 7 years old, and it will take a long time to adjust to the big cultural change that it brought in a country that used to be very tolerant towards sex buying, and to consider the prostituted persons the guilty ones. Some committees are not as efficient as others. Some are even reluctant. And a lot more women could or should actually benefit from the programs. So we must keep advocating for a more energetic implementation of the law, but the positive results are there and they give us hope. I will end with a quick word about the prohibition of sex buying. The law affirms that no one has the right to impose sex acts in exchange of money. By addressing the demand, it discourages pimping networks on investing in a country whose legislation will prevent them from making huge profits.
Could I ask you to wind up?
Yes, yes. But I think that the mere fact, it is of course the work of the police to implement that part of the law, but the mere fact that there is now in our legal system a prohibition of buying sexual acts is a huge step forward. When speaking about prostitution, people will mostly argue on whether it's a woman's right to sell sex or not, to sell her body or not, and we've had that question before. But to my opinion, it is not what is at stake here. The actual question is, in societies who promote equality between women and men, who fight against violence towards women, do we still want to grant some men the right to sell or buy women and girls or other men, to dominate them and impose sexual acts on them? The choice for us is to know which kind of society we want to live in. A society in which the most vulnerable persons, mostly women, are condemned to a form of sexual servitude in which the one who pays has all the rights. Or a society that promotes dignity, equalitarian relationships between men and women, and a vision of human sexuality based on mutual desire and respect. Some countries in Europe have made that clear choice before us. Sweden opened the way. We're very happy that France did the same in 2016. We just hope that many other countries will follow suit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claire, for your informative and very clear speech about the services and, for me, the improvements which have been brought about by the law. Malta is at the verge of taking decisions where the evidence of the consequences of the legislation we pass are available in your country and in different countries, as we have already heard. Thank you very much.